Alright guys, it's Stonk Dad here. I'm doing a little late night video. It's 10:30 currently where I am at right now, but you know what? I just gotta stay on the grind. You guys are asking me questions and want me to make a video, so I just have to, I have to do it for you guys. Mr. Birdmonger, I should pop that up right here. I tweeted out a ghost zone thing on my Twitter, showing the gamma exposure levels and how price freely moves through these levels. And Birdmonger literally came on here. Shout out Birdmonger. He told me to share exactly how I pull up the settings on my chart of my spy chart here with the ghost zones, and then Kingsford over here chimed in and said that I need to do the gamma exposure levels too, also known as GEX. And I'll just do that right now, guys. I'll try to just do it nonchalantly, pretty briefly. Again, I want to keep these videos pretty short. And just bear with me because it's pretty late. I'm tired, but I wanted to knock out this video before tomorrow, my busy day tomorrow. So with that, let's get right into it, and I will share some of the tips and tricks that I get into on tradie ticks and how I kind of trade it. Alright guys, this is my Twitter. Okay, so first things first, you guys probably know how to get to the market net flow dashboard. If you guys have tradie ticks, or if you're in my Discord, you guys know pretty dang well that I use market net flow pretty well. Or not pretty well, a lot. But to get to the gamma exposure levels in that chart that I showed on that tweet, I'll kind of show you what I showed here. See how I have the spy chart here, and then there's these gray areas and then the gamma exposure levels. So I'll show you guys how to do that. So if you go right here on the main page here, you go on the side, and then you want to go to the ticker dashboards, and under options, that's what you want to click on. So let's click on that option thing and let it load. And if SPY doesn't pop up here, oh, it's kind of hard for you guys to see. But anyways, there's a SPY. It should say SPY at the top. Right here, it's kind of cut off on the screen. But if you go up to the search bar up here where it says enter stock symbol, you just type SPY and then just hit enter and it'll load it up for you. And then it should give you, oh, you know what? I'm on the completely wrong thing. It should be under stocks. That's my bad. So under the ticker dashboards, you hit stocks, and then it should say SPY right there. So you can disregard everything that I just said about the options. You want to go on this sidebar here, ticker dashboards, and then stocks. Oh shit, it's kind of cut off here, but you can see right here, stocks. Okay, so this chart should pull up here. It should give you the daily chart as default, but we're going to change up some of these settings here to kind of mimic what I saw today on that little tweet, which is Friday the 14th, if you guys did not know. So I usually like to look at a lot of different time frames when I look for my gamma exposure levels. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with gamma exposure levels, just briefly, that's like one of the only indicators that I use to find levels on SPY. And it's extremely, extremely accurate. If you know what you're doing, if you know what to look for, those levels can be of utmost importance to your trading. I use them a lot. It's pretty much all I use is for the levels. I do use price action support and resistance sometimes, but gamma exposure levels I feel like are a lot more strong and powerful. So to look for longer time frame ones, I usually like to go to the daily or like 4 hour and find those. Normally on the daily, I look first, so it's on default in the daily. Then we go over here to the Greek levels, and then we hit spot GEX because it's easier to see. I'm not going to get much into detail on the difference between regular GEX and then spot GEX, but all you guys need to know is it's basically the same thing. It's just easier to see to the eye if you choose spot GEX. So I do choose spot GEX, and then I hit all here, and it should. Sometimes it's a little fidgety. You got to work with it sometimes. That's one thing that I feel like tradie ticks needs to work on a little bit. Is sometimes these charts are a little bit fidgety and hard to work with. So you do have to mess around with it sometimes, especially if you're trying to find zones to the downside. Sometimes you can't even find them. So like on this daily chart right here, see how the price fell below here? There's no levels down below, but I know for a fact there are on gamma exposure. So You just got to mess around with it. There's also another way to look at it, which I'll show you how to do that as well. If you're trying to find zones and they're not showing up on this chart here, there's another way you can look at them, and I'll show you guys in a little bit. So I kind of just hit this all expiration here a few times, and it kind of brightens up the levels here, and you can see these green and red bars here. And they're kind of hard to see, so what I do is I copy this to TradingView. So I'm not going to get into detail on how to export the TradingView chart to kind of see these levels a little bit better. Nonetheless, there are videos out there. I know, oh gosh, what's his name? The guy that works for, I know he is. I want to shout him out. I feel bad, but there's a guy who works for tradie. He made a video on how to do TradingView export guide. And if you guys want me to make a video on how to do that, I can, but it's also right here. And I've already done that, so I'll show you what to do here. So I copy this this code here, and I go over to my TradingView. Get rid of these stupid ads. You can see that I already have these gamma exposure levels already leveled. I already have the code inputted. So sometimes it's a little fidgety with this when you repaste it. So let's see what happens here. Okay, yeah, so it did it right. So I reposted that new code from the daily level, and it posted these gamma exposure levels for me from 358, 360, and then this one's like 365, 366, and so on and so forth. And it inputs that for me on the chart. But for Kingsford's question on, oh sorry, not Kingsford, Birdmonger's question here, he told me how do I see that gray zones on the chart. So basically, this one is a 5-minute chart that I posted on Twitter. So I just showed you how to input the code to see the levels better on TradingView, and that's kind of how I look at it as well, because it's really hard if I go here on this chart to see exactly where those levels are. So I do post those on my TradingView chart. But for the most part, those are just levels to see longer term, to see where it might end up. I usually look nearer term 15 5-minute chart, so it's a lot easier to see on that. So it's the same thing. I just changed the time frame to 5 minutes here. Greek levels, spot gex, and then all. See that? And I just hit all a few times, and it just brightens up the levels a little bit and makes it these ghost zones grayer. So something to note here is we filled ghost zones the last 2 days almost perfectly. We hit one here. This was on Thursday, yeah, October 13th. You can see this gray area is called a ghost zone, and I know tradie has gone over ghost zones quite a bit, and I've kind of just looked at it and noticed how well they work over the past month or two or whatever, and they work. I don't think I've ever seen one, maybe like once or twice I have seen one not hit these levels and like fill perfectly, but the last 2 days especially have been amazing for gamma exposure levels. So just on Thursday, you can see we nicked a gamma exposure level down here. We filled this ghost zone. This gray area is a ghost zone, which means that market makers, there's not any market makers present to push the stock one way or another. Price can freely move to the next gamma exposure level without much resistance or anything. And it usually moves pretty fast, right? On Thursday and then today, Friday, these ghost zones were filled within like an hour. So this Thursday one filled like pretty quick. Like these are 5-minute candles. So, I mean, this is probably like maybe an hour and a half or so from open to like whatever that was, 9 a.m., 8 a.m. my time. So like an hour and a half. But anyways, that's one. And then these little bars here, those are the gamma exposure levels where you'll probably see some market maker resistance or support. And those are the levels I really, really look at. You can see the previous day, we kind of just bounced between those gamma exposure levels. See that? And I can't tell you exactly what those levels are. It looks like 357 to 360. You can see that price action kind of just hovered around those levels all day long. And then we went into Thursday and Friday, and those zones were like filled quickly. So you can see this ghost zone filled, and then this little ghost zone filled, and then it broke above the gamma exposure level, and filled the next one. See how we had a little bit of resistance here on that red gamma exposure level? We came back down, pretty much tested the gamma exposure level down here, and then filled it again. It's crazy how that works. And then today, the same thing. We nicked off of gamma exposure level up here. We filled it to the downside. We did break through multiple gamma exposure levels here, and that was supported by flow, right? So we literally broke below, and once we got into this ghost zone, this was a great short entry, right? With the strength that puts had, as well as price action and volume, we literally pushed through this ghost zone. This was like what, 365? Yeah, this gamma exposure levels was like 365 to 360, and that filled in like 20 minutes this morning. It was absolutely absurd when I saw that. It went through this ghost zone, filled it completely all the way down. That's like a $5 move to the downside in this ghost zone, and then we bounced almost directly above it, and then we kind of hovered around these two gamma exposure levels all day, right? 358 and 360 were those ones that we hovered around all day. And then eventually, when you pair this with market net flow, let's see. Let me go to market net flow here. Sorry, this is a longer video, guys, and I hope you guys are staying with me. But you can see that market net flow, the puts got absolutely absurd. Bears had full control of this. And I was looking at, like today in my mind, I was looking at this 358 gamma exposure level, because usually when it's pretty strong, that's a good area of support, I was noticing, and you could see that we bounced around it quite a bit, but we finally did break below it, and after hours we did dump a little bit. So we technically are in another ghost zone down to like 352 or so, but I'll show you how I look for the next level to the downside as well. But you got to always pair market net flow with these ghost zones and gamma exposure levels, because normally when you're at a gamma exposure level, you don't really want to short it or long it, unless you really know what you're doing. I usually like to play these ghost zones because it's a lot easier to trade if you're in the right place, right? But nonetheless, we did break below that gamma exposure level, which was 358. So I am looking at another one. So I'm going to show you, because remember what I said, guys, about these charts. They're kind of fidgety, so it's kind of hard to find the gamma exposure levels that you really want. So you can come over here to this bar chart here, and to find that, you just go over here, ticker dashboards, and then options, which I was in earlier, and it should pop up like this when you first get into it. See how it has SPY option summary, and then it has algo flow. So you want to go into there, and then you can find spot gamma exposure levels if you scroll down a little bit, and then here it is. It has GEX at the top here. And I usually just like using the default aggregate, and then I pick spot gamma exposure here. And you can see these white bars here are where we're at right now on SPY. So to the downside, this is the 358 gamma exposure level, which matches up with this one, right? This was the 358 one. It was pretty big, so it matches perfectly to this one. So we're below it right now. So we do have a little tiny one here at 357, but we have a bigger one at 356. So, and that's a seller one. So usually that should, market makers should take us below that level. And the next zone I kind of see for gamma exposure is between 355 and 352. 352 is a little bit bigger one. I'll have to see how it lines up with this chart going into Monday. But nonetheless, these are some decent gamma exposure levels that I'll be looking at on Monday. These ones are a lot bigger, which show more strength and support. So since we are below this 358 level, I do see us pushing a little bit lower, probably around 350. I mean, we'll probably have a little bit of support here at 355, but it normally just depends on flow and what price action is doing on Monday. But since we did break below that, we are technically in a ghost zone down to about 355. That's probably the next level I'll be looking at, since we're below that level. And then if we do break below 355, I'll probably be looking at like 352. Okay, guys, that's a lot of information. I hope you guys stuck with me, and I'm probably really boring as I'm talking about this, but and I'm really hard at explaining it. So if you guys need me to redo that and make it a little bit shorter, straight to the point, maybe I'll write up like a script or something instead, because I kind of just rambled on for literally, let's see, yeah, I've been filming for 15 minutes. That did not feel like 15 minutes. But let me know if you guys want me to condense it maybe into like a 7-minute video to make it a little bit easier, and I'll write a script and go straight to the point to all these things. But that's kind of just what I go through on a day-to-day basis when I trade. I look at those zones, I match it with market net flow, and I just watch those zones, man. Like these zones are absolutely absurd to watch. And you can see on TradingView how well those ghost zones filled. So I kind of just drew these pictures myself, or not these pictures, these zones here, showing the ghost zones. But you can see that we've pretty much nicked these gamma exposure levels perfectly, even pre-market. See, today down these levels, we're going up in between these levels like perfectly. It's amazing to watch, especially today. Today was freaking awesome. Like we nicked the gamma exposure levels down here, 360, bounced a little bit, had a little bit of support, but then we broke back down, and then we're trading choppy this way, and now we're breaking down below it again. So that's just something to watch for. Watch for those ghost zones because those are the easiest to trade. You can see Thursday and Friday are excellent examples of those ghost zones and how we can trade those. It's amazing, guys. It's like my all-time favorite tool to use. If you guys have questions about this, please shoot them on Twitter in the comments below. I hope you guys stayed with me. I'm like the most boring speaker of all time. Oh, but yeah, man, it's late night. Just let me know what you guys think of this. If this is something that you will want to use, if you guys need a little bit more help with the Tradie platform on how to find those GEX levels, I post them all the time on Twitter. But yeah, guys, let me know. Have a good night.